In Fort Fortal. No, in Fort Fortal, we raised that much in less than 1 hour.
Exactly, they raised around 100 million.
Less than 1 hour. If you put it to Lawn College in Lira, they can take 3 years to raise it. We did it in less than, and the king of Toro was there seeing us. And good enough, his close cousin is an OB. His closest cousin, the one who is always with him. Edgar, the State House, man. Can we go back home?
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues. Real talk.
But at the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues. Real talk.
And good evening, welcome to the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. It is a Monday, the 26th day of May. The year is 2025. I have a court ruling here that nullifies the Kawempe North elections, and as we speak right now, the seat has been declared vacant by a court. And in just a few statements here, therefore, this is the order of the court. Therefore, in accordance to section 80, 82, subsection 4C and 82, clause 6 and C of the Parliamentary Elections Act, I order as follows: that the election of Luimba's Elias Nalukola as directly elected Member of Parliament for Kawempe Division North Constituency in Kampala is set aside. Then 2, that the seat of the directly elected Member of Parliament for Kawempe North Constituency in Kampala is declared vacant, and that the Electoral Commission is ordered to conduct a fresh election for the directly elected Member of Parliament for Kawempe North Constituency in Kampala districts. And then lastly, that each party shall meet its own costs. That is the court ruling that has been made today, and as we speak right now, Kawempe North is vacant, and as the court has ordered, fresh elections shall be carried out. What does this mean, and why is it that it is happening right now? And for that conversation, I have 3 candid gentlemen from who are serving this particular country. I'll start with Mr. Andrew Irumba. I can call you a senior journalist, but also the CEO, TheSpy. You're most welcome, sir. And a Pan-Africanist at that, yes. Yes, sir. He's really a Pan-Africanist, Mr. Irumba. Then second is Mr. Joseph Ochieno, who is from UPC. You're most welcome, sir.
Thank you, and a Pan-Africanist.
And a Pan-Africanist.
He is.
I know. And last, definitely not least, is the Director of External Affairs, Major Pollar Awich. Most welcome, sir.
Thank you. Also a Pan-Africanist.
Also a Pan-Africanist.
And now that you mention about...
Pan-Africans in yellow.
Yes. But now that you...
they say Pan-Africanism is one of their core...
But also a lawyer, since you mentioned about the court matters.
Yes, thank you so much, gentlemen. I'm going to start with you, Honorable Joseph Ochieno, and as you give us your opening remarks, please highlight on what is happening in UPC, because it looks like they are gearing up for internal elections, and Akena is standing for presidency. What do you think about that as you give us your opening remarks? So,
I thought you would ask me to immediately respond to the extraordinary ruling today.
Not yet. You will get your time.
In which
this is just your opening remark.
But you gave it as an opening remark. So, in which I found it extraordinary that that we are where we are. Just like the conversations we were having last week around the NRM amendments bill, which went through, and the political parties and organizations bills, after all the shambles in the Kawempe by-election. So I would have expected that common sense prevailed, that we let go whatever happened. I think it has been very exhausting at time, and for people like the three of us actually, who are in our own different capacities, we are permanently out in the mornings and the evenings, different kind of media spaces, having these conversations on top of the work that we do. It can be very exhausting. Sometimes it becomes a little bit boring. Sometimes then you wonder that whether or not what you're doing is a waste of time, but we just have to keep going. But that as it may, you asked me about the situation in UPC.
Yes, please.
The situation in UPC is as sort of messy and contradictory as the ruling of today. It's an irony, isn't it? When I was looking at and I perused through it, the ruling by Justice Bernard Namanya, and what struck me was the fact that Namanya was able to be very precise and specific and very concerned, and on this occasion very kind to the electoral process, including being able to be concerned about who was campaigning on election day, being concerned about who was giving money to who. I have my own experience of Mr. Museveni's jerrycans, jerrycans being given to people in my local village in Nagongara and neighboring places, and women being given jerrycans with Museveni's, not particularly, Museveni's pictures, but to places where there are no water wells. People go to travel miles upon miles, and the young girls have got to go ahead and pick you up from 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, basically, to fetch water. But jerrycans with Museveni's name and photo to be given to people who don't have access to water. And that's part of electoral campaign. And you tell me that if those jerrycans are not, and the law is here, is not part of bribery to voters, then what is? But in UPC, it was March 17th, 2021, that following my election, as you know, as president of the party, I went to court. And basically to seek a judicial review. And number 2, to ask for a permanent injunction against Jim McKenna. That has been now 4 years plus 3 months. A ruling hasn't been made. And we are now focusing on Namanya. So what really I reprioritize?
So where does this leave you?
It basically means that UPC is leaderless. But
no, but it's electing. That's what I'm saying. Where does it leave you when it looks like it's electing?
I'm answering you.
It's
UPC is effectively leaderless. Jim McKenna, whom High Court ruled against, Court of Appeal ruled against, Supreme Court ruled against, occupied Uganda House by force is the person who's now occupying the party headquarters with almost candid support and backing of the state.
Okay.
A Court of Appeal ruling was very definitive that asked for fresh elections, which I too participated in and which I won, and figures were fixed. And looking again at the Namanya ruling, Comrade Awich, you may not have had time to look for it. I find it interesting how he makes references to affidavits and witness statements.
Okay.
I've got many. In my case, just merely one is sufficient, and representation from one district sufficient to overturn the results, and certainly in my favor. And I'm saying, how do we pick and choose the law which is supposed to be applied?
What
now,
are you doing next year as an individual?
Yeah.
Because Akena is organizing a delegates conference. But because of time, I just want you to tell me then, what are you going to do? Because what you say is a leaderless party looks like it's gearing up for the elections. You or the people you lead, what are you going to do, or how are you going to be organizing for the election?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I've been long in the media, and I've also taught, and I've also written substantially. So I'm spoiled by doing abstracts and formats. So I tend to be a little bit structured. So it's basically coming to that. But so where we are at the moment, you know, Jimmy has sought to go out to recruit, mobilize, and organize, and now claim that he's going through the process of re-elections and nominations. I can see he's already contesting between himself and Dennis Enap. Jimmy does not have the mandate to call for the delegates conference, because it's basically the fact that he did not have the mandate to call the delegates conference that the courts found his presumptive election as leader in 2015 illegal. So he doesn't have the mandate to be able to do so, particularly specifically based on the court ruling of Court of Appeal ruling of 2020. Now, candidate Enap has basically, who's a lawyer, has joined the process of illegality by putting himself forward as a candidate for president, as a contestant in the process. Whether they have deals in between of them, I don't know. But all I know is that at one stage, Enap was a member of staff of Jimmy's team, and I know that they also sued Jimmy, but also know that they withdrew the petition asking for a deal of up to 120 million Uganda shillings.
Yeah, thank you.
To be paid to them by Jimmy, so that they withdrew. So, in a way, that's sort of the messy way. But in 30 seconds, amidst all those, the party has got members and people who are seeking to join. I am hoping to, within the next 2 weeks, to go to a particular sub-region to receive more than 100 people crossing predominantly from NRM to join Uganda People's Congress.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I hope to get Kena. We are looking for him, so probably we shall be getting him soon, sir. As you give us your opening remarks, you were having the NRM structure elections last week. Do you want to share with the country how the process was? In fact, you were not even here on that particular day. How was it, and where are you as the National Resistance Movement?
The election went well with a few challenges. We have stages. Once we elect from the village, which is the only place we do adult suffrage, every party member votes. Once we vote that committee at the branch level, our constitution calls it a branch, that is a village. Then the subsequent level, parish, sub-county, district, is a college election. The members, the executives who are elected from here, they meet, they elect, then the executives meet and elect, and so on and so forth. So we went on well. But a few lessons we learned. One, we learned that by very many interventions, either government projects like PDM, or even me, Major Awich, repeatedly coming here and talk with discipline and decorum, many people have joined NRM. In fact, now, even on phone calls like now, the hostilities have reduced where I've appeared. And more positive are coming. Now, what does this mean? it means it generates a challenge itself. That is how the dynamics of a society works. You want to industrialize. Your urge is to make industries and factories and industries. As soon as you build factories and industries, you are posed with a challenge of pollution. Then you have to fight to get the pollution. Now, we marketed the party, it is popular, now we have a challenge of managing democracy.
Yes, speaking about managing democracy, the violence has come back again. The violence we talk about,
that is it now.
Every time it bounces back.
That's what we're saying now. Many people have come, the party is popular, people are dying for it. I'll give an example. Yeah, 3 deaths are reported so far because of that party elections.
In 2021, there were 7, I think.
Because of the love for the party.
NRM
I'm
primaries.
sure in some districts, if UPC went for such kind of election, they will beg people to hold the flag. In Nyabushozi or Kazo, or even in Rwampara, you may have to go and beg, please, to Mwesije John, kindly hold us our flag.
That is possible.
We are even going to give you money.
That is possible,
Now,
because in
us,
1980 there was no way you could hear any UPM candidate in the whole of Eastern Northern Uganda.
For us, even in Lira, in Lango, to date, that of Ngola Sam is suspended till tomorrow. To date, that of Molatar is suspended. You see, everywhere. So we are now challenged to manage democracy, which is like a challenge of
you are spread for choice. You have so many.
You industrialize, and you now tackle the pollution. That is a beautiful challenge. Okay. We are better off managing that challenge than managing the absence of people. Okay. So that is it. So we still have by tomorrow what we call residual election. Residual were those areas where it didn't take place. And we have had a bad habit. Some financially capable candidates have decided this habit of taking voters. Imagine taking voters in buses to Ginger in a hotel. And they sleep in a hotel in Ginger, and you transport them the morning of voting.
Oh,
so
who has that money?
Oh, they have, even in Kanunu, it happened.
In the primaries?
This district thing.
You are rich.
Yes.
Yeah, so, it's a rich political party.
That shows you the importance or the love for the party. So,
okay.
In various interventions, as I have said, we marketed the party.
It also looks like you have got a win in Kawempe. You first went and appealed to the court, then you withdrew the petition, now you went back again, and now they've nullified the election. Kawempe North is vacant. What do you think about that?
Well, Kawempe North is vacant. First, about the withdrawal. There are always circumstances which make people withdraw. Either the manner of drafting, the petitioners, the relief that you are seeking was not in order. And the law allows that to withdraw at a certain place, a point, you don't pay costs. So you are free to withdraw and reinstate. That is well within the law. Then you draft it properly and put right parties. So that is okay. Now, the vacancy is there. I just hope that everybody sees justice. In that, my land brother, the judge, that judge, we graduated together. And you know, in our days, we were keen to know who went to which school. He's from the West, but he went to Kibule. Because by then you'd easily identify one from Ntari School, from Kibule, and a few from Mwere. A few isolated ones come from Mwere.
This man, the most successful national school.
Many people
that is treason, man.
So,
yes, we
I knew him because he was in Kibule and we're in the same class. He's a very upright person. He's a very good person. So I hope, in the course of justice, that the petitioner says there's justice.
What do you think about the reasons he gives? Nalukola campaigned on that particular day. He also cites vandalism on some polling stations. I think 14 out of 100 and more polling stations. What do you think about these reasons? Are they justified?
Well, those reasons are matters of facts and figures. So if they are facts, then the other party had enough chance in court to negate it. Okay. To negate that, you are saying this one is this is not true. You are saying this is not true. I hope they had ample time to negate that. And that is what forms the ground for appeal for higher court. That's why you hear in appeal they said the judge heard in fact and in law. In other words, in fact, he's saying if the judge said there was disenfranchisement of 16,000 people,
Yes.
that is not true. That was an error, in fact. So always at appellate level, you see that the ground is that the judge either erred on two grounds. Either erred in fact, these are the factual figures that is saying, or in law, that he misapplied or did not apply some laws.
Okay.
So that will be seen. I have already seen notice of appeal, meaning that the appeal process has already been set in motion.
Exactly. The Secretary General of the National Unity Platform, David Louis Ribongoya, confirmed that that is what is going to happen. Let me come to you, Mr. Andrew Irumba. As a journalist, your job is to really see how the country is. I want you to tell me in your own perspective, how you think Uganda is, just generally. How do you see Uganda as a country?
First, I would wish that you give me a minute. I go back to my elder brother's UPC, the points he rose. And now, when you consider what the judge just did, Bernard, in this ruling, he seems to be showing you that we must uphold the rule of law. But let me just give you a very classic example of UPC. Akena, the same courts made the ruling and said, Akena, you're not the democratically elected leader of UPC. Actually, the laws of Uganda knows very well that Akena is not the UPC leader. However, Akena's party, UPC, under his leadership, continues to draw money from the taxpayer under the iPod arrangement. Are you aware?
Yes, please.
That Akena, UPC, government of Uganda, that put in place this court, that made the ruling on behalf of we Ugandans, continue to pay Akena for being illegally in an office. And if you followed his argument for the entire last week, I was following very keenly. His argument in the just past bill
Yes.
was about the sharing. We have been sharing like this. Now you guys are removing this plate. In fact, most of our biggest argument has been that the entire total money, where you tie it against numerical strength, should change. We should first have a portion of that money for all of us to share equally.
Equally, yes.
Now you get another portion. Now you distribute according to numerical strength. Those are his two arguments. Nothing else. Right? So, but
what are you trying to say?
it shows that the government, instead of upholding what the courts ruled against Akena, now the same government is implementing illegalities with Akena. Because the courts of law are working in concert with the rest of the agencies of government, isn't it?
Yes.
If the courts of law have said this one is not a lead of UPC, another agency of government under iPod cannot disburse money signed off by Akena to receive. No. You will tell him, please, this law, this ruling says this. Can you first go to your party and rectify this? And this is the only way that would push Jim Akena to come back to the leadership of UPC and have a structured leadership this time around. But because he continues to enjoy everything that is meant for a leader of UPC, there is no reason why he needs to sit down with the other colleagues with whom he disagrees.
Because
so in a way,
I think the state sees him as the leadership, his group.
The state,
yes.
now the courts,
and
the
according
courts,
to you,
the courts of law are part of the state. So when you're saying the state see him as the legitimate leader of UPC,
because the state gives him all the privileges.
Now that's exactly.
So I'm saying maybe his leadership is the one that is legitimate.
But then who is supposed to determine
legitimacy?
Yeah, it is court, not President Museveni, not Parliament, not police, not even UPC. Court. When you have your disagreements in UPC, the only arena to go to that can say, Joseph, you are wrong, Jimmy, you are right, it is court.
Like we saw in council.
So they went to court. Court said, Jimmy Akena, you are illegally in office. However, the other state agents continue to work very well with Jim Akena.
We shall bring Akena
and
here.
then,
Akena
and
is
then,
not
and
here,
then
so-
they don't work with this one.
Yes.
Now,
As you
this
conclude on
no, this
Akena's
connects
issue.
me to the current, to the just released ruling.
Yes, court ruling.
On the Nalukola's issue, court wants to galvanize support from us, the public, that we must do things right. You get it? That's what court is looking for. You must begin to do things right. That's why they have nullified. You are nullifying a by-election. You are ordering another by-election. Those are 3 elections.
Exactly.
But even the laws do not allow you now to conduct a by-election, according to the current law now.
After the
Right now,
Because of the time.
because of time, they are limited by time. You cannot conduct a by-election a few months to the general election. Are you getting me? Hey, it's not allowed. But the court has ordered, please do. But the laws of Uganda do not allow you to conduct a by-election a few months to a general election.
So what is in the mind of the judge? Because
I-
they are the ones who know the law more than
Yeah.
us. I would imagine.
I don't know, because on one side, they want you to follow the law. But on the other, they're helping Jim Akena to bend the law. That's my argument. Number 2, how I wish there were more grounds in nullifying the presidential elections in 2021, 2026. More grounds than ever in this.
Chagulanyi withdrew his case.
Why do you think so? He loved to take it to the
No, he
People's Court.
he said, let me take it to the People's Court.
Why
So
do you?
someone would say it was on him.
No, why do you think so?
Why is it
Because
why has Nambi got the
and let me tell you,
verdict?
let me tell you, my argument is this: there were more grounds, better grounds, to nullify the presidential general elections of 2021, 2026. Better grounds. You get it? Even when you're talking about defranchisement, rigging, brutality, violence, there was more violence across the country in the general elections of presidential elections than what? Than Kawempe. Because Kawempe, it was just a small area. In the presidential general, the violence was national. Every part of the country there was brutality. So now,
So why
if you
Kawempe?
say that this should be nullified, but actually, you remember when WSJ went to court over the same? That's part of the reason why Chagulanyi later on withdrew.
In 2006?
Yes.
When court said that, yes, there were some grounds,
but-
but they could not, they were inconsequential.
At that time,
to the entire
court
election.
is telling you, yeah, he's a thief, but he stole a chicken. If he had stolen a cow, we would nullify. But he's a thief, yes. But continue, please. But this time around, the same court is saying, Nalukola, because the court knows that the 2 grounds they have raised, defranchisement, they even reach a point of pointing out that Farida Nambi herself could not vote, even when she did. But let us even agree that she did not. Did the court prove that it is Nalukola who was in charge of ensuring that Farida Nambi does not vote? When you talk about brutality brutality being meted on people, is it Nalukola? Was Nalukola in charge of that? Because everybody knows. Let me finish my point. Everybody knows the source of brutality. We know that it was Jat. Now we need to find out, did the court prove that the commander of Jat was Nalukola? So that Nalukola becomes the victim?
I think the court also says that, it says there are some that were not in the circumstances of Nalukola. But the reasons that were under his circumstance is, why do you carry out campaigning on the election day? They pointed that out. He was campaigning on the election day.
I was following the court
Proceedings. Yeah.
the proceedings in court and the cross-examination. I can tell you that point did not come out well. Yeah, he has found a way but in court, the cross-examination, Nambi failed to prove that he has evidence that Nalukola was campaigning past the
So what is court working
So I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not in the mind of that judge. But the point is this.
Please do.
On one side, you're saying we must follow the law. You watch 2026, 2031 general elections, the presidential especially. If we are not going to have more violence in the election and see whether they will invalidate the results. So, for me, if you had brought evidence that shows that Nalukola was the commander of JAT, Nalukola was the commander of JAT, because everybody knows that the violence, the people who were brutalized by JAT and the police, and Nalukola is a civilian. In fact, Nalukola was a victim. You get it? He was a victim. Now, that's point number one. Point number two, when you say that Nambi herself was defranchised, that she did not vote, when in court they presented evidence, Nambi casting her vote, she's holding the vote, ticked very well by herself, dropping it into the ballot box. But in the ruling, the judge is telling you that Nambi was disenfranchised.
And 16,000 others.
Yes. Now, those 16,000 something, did the court receive evidence that those votes were for Nambi? So that when you add them up, Nambi can beat Nalukola.
I was with Muchunguzi on Friday last week, and he also confirmed that in Kawempe, 14 polling stations, they were not able to vote.
Yes.
So he said, and I think according to the court, when you tally these 14 polling stations, they would have affected the result of the election.
Yeah, but now, is it Nalukola that made that happen? Do you think it is Nalukola that made that happen, so that you punish him? No. Who is the loser in this ruling? Who is the loser?
For now, I think Nalukola.
Nalukola. That's the point. Who is the winner in this ruling? Nambi, isn't it? Isn't it? Now, tell me any point that is captured here in the ruling that clearly pins Nalukola. That Nalukola, you did this, and this affected the result. Tell me which one. Which one? So that you punish him. Who? Nambi, let me finish my point. Nambi was a candidate of the state that brutalized the people. You get it? Now, you are punishing Nalukola, the victim. That's the point.
Then where is the justice? Because I'm imagining the court is the temple of justice. Where is the justice?
Very good, my brother. That is the point I am raising. Where is the justice? Finally, my brother, if you vote of Kawempe North, and you endured all that torture, and then you look at, we journalists were brutalized. We were even being sent by force to Chankwanzi. Do you know?
Soon you will be.
Now, you look at a judge telling you, go back to that brutality. Go back. This is what the ruling is telling the voter. The voter, who this time survived with a knee injury, now they're telling him to go back limping into that election so that he can lose the second knee.
Thank you, Irumba. Thank you, Irumba.
That's what they're saying.
I had a
you came out with one knee injury, go back so that you can have both. I mean, really.
I was with a journalist, and he also reiterated the same. He said, you want to send us back to that election. Let me come to you, Mr. Joseph Ochieno. Where does this leave the country? What we have seen in Kawempe North, what does it speak of? Whoever is behind this, because it looked like it was done and dusted, as you said, that everything was finished.
You know, if you listen to what my brother Irumba has just said, you know, I have also received a small note on my phone, and talk about which normally these days we've got continuous audiences who watch us, and we love you guys watching us. It's very important to have these discourses, but once in a while, sometimes the people who wonder why we look at our phones. Because of the nature of the world today. I was telling a church in Nagungere yesterday that China has just released a car that flies.
Doesn't need a driver.
You know, that doesn't need a driver, and in fact, doesn't need, almost like helicopter does not need a runway. just get up and go on the skies, meaning that's how fast the world is
That's
moving.
where the world is.
And my argument in Agongera was that the young people there should make sure that the parents should make sure that young 10, 11, 12-year-olds don't spend 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock hours in the training centers, but they should be at home. So it was something to do with education. So point is, as a country where we are, if this is the kind of debate we're having, I don't know where we're getting opportunity to go through innovation, to go through education, to invest in big things,
Flying cars.
to make sure that define cars and make sure that we're able to compete globally. But so linked to that is also the nature of instant 24-hour news networks. I got most of the information when I was tracking the NRM traffic on my way here, including this very particular ruling. So it's instant. So people should be able to appreciate once in a while when we look at, when we make reference to our phones. In any case, we also want to make sure that we provide you with up-to-date information and that we're very precise and that there are no contradictions in our submissions. Now, as I said, it's basically generally shameful. And as I say, sometimes it feels very, very tiresome. And sometimes you say, are we wasting time? But for me, I've been in this for a very long time. I've been in this thing officially for 35 years. So it's been a long time, and it's something that we have to keep going, except sometimes you wonder, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Now,
is there light?
The
end of that tunnel?
The good must prevail. NRA will collapse and must collapse. The only thing that I pray for is that the decent enough Ugandans, both in NRA and outside, who will be able to have the capacity to mobilize and organize Uganda together, so that the good that prevails for everybody, including NRA. You know, and that's very important. So, looking at these interesting 16,000 allegedly disenfranchised voters, people who did not participate in the election, those are 14 polling stations, and it would make a very good argument. Of course, it makes, in principle, is something worthy noting. But interestingly, the judge was rather romantic about it, where he says that, look, he looked through some of the various polling stations. There are certain polling stations where there were 85% turnout, and there's some others that were 11% turnout. He himself was writing part of that ruling, by the way. You know, so why he decides to assume that these 14 polling stations, you know, must have been, and that's the point you're trying to make, you challenging Comrade Irumba here. You know, the judge makes a presumption, the point that Comrade Awich talks about, matters of fact and law. And as a matter of fact, it's excessively hypothetical. It's extremely unlikely that the 14 polling stations would have returned 100% turnout, and in any case, out of 100%, there would be an average of, say, 50% support per polling station across for Nambi, and not anybody else, because it's only that mathematics that would have made Nambi add now 8,000 plus another 8,000, and to come close then to who? To Nalukola. In fact, in anything, it should be 100% plus no less than 55%, actually, for argument's sake, and to make sure that it's relatively safe in that way. Now, that's the argument. So it's very frivolous, and I found it quite contradictory. I spotted that, and it's a point if you're trying to leave it a burden to Irumba. No, that's a burden of responsibility that this entire educated judge ought to have seen and done slightly much more mathematics. There's some guys
okay,
who are not
if we do not even have, let me say, the skill to dispense and look at evidence, right? But if we could look at that and see that there is something missing, what is in the mind of a person who has the skills to do
Comrade Irumba is telling you that these guys look at this evidence with a different heart, with a different eyes. They're driven, and in many cases, by Chankwanze eyes. Quite clearly, that judge was substantially conflicted. And it's interestingly, of course, the lower court, we should argue that there's room for appeal and things like that. But I think it does not state the case, does not show good, does not put the country in a good light, really. Nor does it really put the establishment, the state, in good light. And definitely, the intentions of the judge, whatever arguments he might make, I think at the moment is one in which conversations will begin from tomorrow morning. To put that judge in as much the same light as that judge that denied Kankwenza bail.
Thank you so much. It's exactly 8 p.m. You're still watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Katoka Wesa, you are watching. Then Kasule Ismail, Kefa Henry, thank you so much for watching. Lumalan Konge, Ahmed Hezbollah, Judith Nalkwago, Brock Williams Chikomeko, thank you so much for watching. This is the Hotline Show. Let me come to you, Major. And my question to you, Major, is where should now Ugandans go if they look at the judiciary or the justice system as something they cannot trust? Where should they go? But also, when you are looking at the evidence of the day itself, Kawempe, how the elections took part, where the opposition feels like they were already, differentiated, they were already beaten, some of our journalists were also beaten in the same manner. How just is it a decision for courts to nullify Council Nalukola's victory?
I will answer that squarely. You know very well I'm good at answering questions. But not to make it get lost, I want to comment on what my colleagues had said before. On the issue of Akena and money, Akena is arguing, I think erroneously, that under that iPod arrangement, there was an understanding that the money should be given in a proportional representation. But it seems to be citing a provision which was not agreed on, that in the last year of election, since all of us are campaigning, it should be shared equally. We have said no, there's no exception to that. There's no exception to that. So, you said that cannot be. So that is his contention, the last year. The other thing I wanted to comment about is my Congress brother from Mwiri says that NRM has collapsed. Well, any organization can collapse. And sometimes it worries us. But we think that what will survive, will make us survive, is not the amount of tanks or helicopters or what that we have. How to endear the people, how to keep close to the masses, how to solve the problem of the masses. If we keep solving the problem of the masses, as you can see, struggle for the party where people are dying, we shall stay around, Congressman. But I can assure you, organizations, if not properly managed, can collapse. But for us, we think we shall endure the people, not because of the military might or power, but because we think we have the correct analysis to people's problems and meet them and solve them with various interventions. So you may have to wait a little longer for our collapse. Now, your question is about justice.
Yeah, how just is the justice system?
Are
And
you,
it feels like
bragging?
the state has...
These guys, we're
some
used
people have
to
a
them.
feeling that the state has pocketed the justice system, especially, it's doing things in their favor.
There was a research done of all the appeals after High Court. Many of them NRM lost. Now, when NRM loses, our brothers say there's justice. But when NRM wins, there's no justice. So why is this justice being relative and circumstantial? I wish I had the data of the previous election, of how many election petitions NRM candidates lost. To date, we are still paying cost for the election that we lost. But when we lose, there is a justice. The courts of law have justice. For example, when Supreme Court rules that civilians should not be tried in military courts, I said, Windle is so good. Hey, the court is independent, there's justice. So we should avoid this selective thanking of court to be justice. Now, as I said earlier, I know the judge and I know he's an upright person. Anyway, if there's injustice, let's wait for another 5 people in the Court of Appeal to see if all the 5 can connive not to be justices. But that is the trend of court. It's like football. When you're a supporter of Man U and Man U wins, you say we are very good. You know, when Man U loses, soccer is soccer. I mean, it was not soccer before the losing. When you win, you think you have worked so hard.
But then how safe also is this court? Because recently, in the case of Dr. Kiza Besije, this previous week, we saw men take over, the court, fight in the court, and some of these men are alleged to be state operatives. What do you think about that even the court does not have its sanctity no more?
The sanctity of the court must be observed at all times, and it is in our manifesto. Our manifesto clearly talks about the sanctity of courts, the justice. We have a big portion in our manifesto about
but you have good ideas, though implementing these ideas
so
looks to
the
be
one you are
tedious
talking
a
of
task.
should be a fact-by-fact basis. And of course, if there are evidence that somebody was wrongly involved, President Museveni has said it again and again, that somebody will be heavily reprimanded or punished. But since I don't have the facts of this one, so I am hesitant to see exactly what happened. But as a general principle, we want court independence, court sanctity. We have put it in the 4 pillars of NRM: patriotism, Pan-Africanism, democracy, and social transformation. Now, democracy cannot be a democracy without rule of law. And that is
this a democracy? Are you seeing a democracy?
There is. You doubt it? There's a democracy.
No, when I look at how an opposition candidate is handled,
That's
how
what
they are
I'm
bundled,
That's why I'm
I
saying.
feel that that's not
That's why
democracy.
I'm saying that if there was an error and it comes to our attention, we would deal
That's
firmly.
democradula.
We would do very firmly with it.
But these errors have been recurring, sir, lastly.
So maybe the complainant didn't file a complaint properly. But as a general rule or as a principle, we as NRM, we are there to the rule of law, the sanctity of courts, and we want them independent. In fact, for me, if Nambi had lost in this case, I would come here and brag around that we respect the rule of law.
Okay.
Otherwise, the court has found the contrary.
Irumba, as we conclude on this issue, I want you to also mention on how the court was hijacked by people we don't know, starting to fight during the case of Dr. Kiza Besigye. You've reiterated this as you're making your submission, but then how do we move on? Because courts are the only way people have to get justice. So they're the courts we have, even amidst all these challenges that you're talking about. You see that's where we run to. What do we do as a country?
I could even see the inner feeling of the Chief Justice Onyedolo. I don't know whether you have looked at his. The judiciary has written something by Chief Justice in regards to what happened last week.
Exactly.
And you see the inner feeling by Dolo. He even actually said courts of law are supposed to be the sanctity of fairness. That's a place where you must run to. You see, like people, when there is war, the first thing they think of running to is churches.
Yes.
You have seen people in wartime. Now, all of us here, when we feel that somebody has unjustifiably handled you, the only place you think of in your head, if you are a sane person, is court.
Exactly.
Now, you are running to court. Plain-clothed people are coming to court to hound you out even. And you also know that this writing the Chief Justice has made, I hope it's not simply for purposes of sanitizing, you know, to show that I wrote something I cared. But really going to the bottom of the matter and have this 2006.
I was going to say
Black members attacked court. And for them, once the magistrate or the judge would make a ruling, and he adjourns the case, and he leaves the chair, they don't care what happens in the backyard of the same court, or even once he has left, what happens in the courtyard, or Mulujarwa court, in the courtyard, it is none of his business. Next time he's going to come, sit in his chair, and pretend like he didn't know whatever happened in his. You get? So these people have gotten emboldened now. Those days, they would attack such places. When the judge immediately leaves, they take over. They even starting taking over, marking you from the door. You get it? The door of the courtroom. They mark you, they follow you.
But
Once you reach in the courtyard of the court, or outside along the fence at Uganda Road, they have you. The judges, wherever they would come, the next day, they will not comment about that. Nothing. For them, they think
But
nothing.
isn't that what happened also?
And I'm
Recently,
showing you,
it
my
was the
brother,
same case.
I am showing you how they have fed this fat lion. Now it has grown. Soon, you see now, last Friday, they came to court before the judge had, before the magistrate had come.
Yes.
Next time, if they don't, that's why the judge, the chief justice, I think he's trying to write to curtail that. Otherwise, next time they're going to jump on a suspect or even the magistrate himself when he's in his chair there. When he rules, not in their favor, in the favor of the state, they will jump and you can't hold him by the collar. But this is something that you systematically build. They have been watching. People are picked from the court premises, put in a drone, numberless drone, by plainclothes people. And the court, the next time the judge comes, or the magistrate, that is none of their business. Now it has come into the courtroom for these other suspects. Next time it will come to the judge or the magistrate. You are still reading your paper here, giving orders. The plainclothes man jumps and he picks you by the collar. And me love that. I want that to happen. Hey, you see, in my Pan-Africanism, this is my elder, Awich Pollar. In Pan-Africanism, this is my elder. We know in Pan-Africanism that if you want to organize, you first disorganize. Hey, right now, if this man speaks requesting for some water and you don't give him, he was polite. He speaks again, he's dying, you don't respond. The next thing, if he stands up and hits the camera, you will say, what is the problem? He said they will bring 3 bottles of water in 1 minute.
Thank you so much.
Hey, in Pan-Africanism,
That's
you
what they
first
want me to
disorganize. That's why Museveni, they were in Nairobi, in the peace talks. Museveni was based on the phone, commanding, even asking how far the MRA has gone from the border to inside. He was asking. He was even organizing the soldiers. He was even recruiting more.
They were talking.
Hey, they were talking in Nairobi. Peace talks in Nairobi.
Thank you so much.
Have you seen how now the world is paying attention to what is happening in Congo? Why? M23 have taken over a big chunk of part of DRC. Now everybody is concerned. A solution will be good. Okay. Joseph Kabila, right now he's with the M23. Now there will be a solution. But if you continue like this, you can spend 100 years like this.
Let me wait and see, because as you're speaking,
so me, I want this plainclothes guys. The way they held by the collar these other people, next time to hold by the collar the magistrate. That's when we shall sit down as a camera and say, why did we go wrong?
Thank you.
I am the student here.
Let me come to you in the issue of how the court sanctity. But also he mentioned something pertinent, that people are passing, but we're even passing laws that I don't know if they can even catch up with some people. But before you do that, sir, please comment on the way the sanctity of court is being disrespected these days.
I don't know what more I can say, because quite clearly what all of us are saying is that the court seems to be completely taken over by the executive, and that starting with 2006, that Black Mamba thing. By the way, that was unprecedented. Political parties ought to have pushed that we completely demilitarize the judiciary. I think we talked, but I don't really think we talked enough. Where we are today, if we moved from the courts and went to Parliament, and we had those commando guys when the speaker was Kadaga, and all she could do was to lament. My view is that I am concerned about what we are going to be seeing following annulment of the elections in Kawempe and as we prepare for the next elections, because I don't think we learned any major lessons.
So now this is like a jungle.
In 2021.
The stronger ones survive.
And indeed, and as I said, I am not quite sure whether we can have this conversation in isolation of the wider national malaise, because if it is the case that we have a CDF who treats and is able to dare Germany. Germany is, for information, the most powerful Western European nation state. It's the global power of Western Europe. Okay. And we're able to dare them, including to abuse its ambassador and to call him short. And to call him short versus Tusi Muhim Dinka. That sort of is where we are. To me,
but then with all that blatancy that you're saying, we have passed the new bill, the UPDF amendment bill, that is reinstating or bringing back the General Court Martial.
Why I have not answered you directly is to say that actually we need to be looking at the bigger picture.
Exactly.
In any case, and so whatever is happening in the courts, and Comrade Irumba was itching me that maybe I need to get slightly much more radical. I should move my suits and begin to do things.
I was saying that as a metaphor, don't act it.
But you know, because it is true that I've waited for the last 4.5 years, and I think somewhere people are just watching and laughing and clapping that let him continue, you know, and I don't know where they continue up to where. But on a serious note, me, I'm looking for solutions that bring us together, and I find it very difficult. Whatever has just happened does not create an atmosphere in which we have people in the opposition that can have faith to have a free and frank conversation with guys in NRA, but at the same time also the guys in NRA, Comrade, which is political bosses outside Chadondo, what they present so uncompromising a tone that I'm not quite sure whether there's anybody in government who's acting reasonably, except that people basically want to win. And so I think we're preparing ourselves for extremes, that political parties like UPC will remain the exception, meaning that we're the reasonable ones. But if you consider how we've been punched by the state using G. McKenna and others, time comes when I cannot take responsibility for some of the things that happens by members of UPC when the push comes to the shove.
Okay. Yeah. Let me bring in Honorable Awich. The UPDF Amendment Act now, I was going to say bill, but it's now an act of parliament, has been passed.
Has it been assented?
Some people, it has not yet been assented to, but it has been passed by parliament. So, Honorable Pollar, some people believe that there was no need for this particular bill because the Supreme Court of the land, you as a lawyer know, that it had already decided or made decisions upon this particular bill, now act. What do you think about the effects, really?
Well, first of all, I'd like to reply to what they have said about black mambas or the arrest in court. The arrest is court. I don't know whether you people bother to study why it happens. And maybe we need to address that route to court. You know, the arrest in courts comes from a fact that the state has no right to appeal against a bail. You can appeal against anything up to Supreme Court, but bail is non-appealable. Meaning that even if, say, somebody has killed 10 people on Kampala Road near Uganda House, and you go to court, and court grants bail, the prosecutor or the DPP cannot say, my lord, I appeal against this bail. No, he has to walk freely. That is the temptation where a state said, come on, this man killed 10 people on Kampala Road when we were seeing. Now he has got bail. That's why there's a temptation to arrest you and charge you of another offense.
That's why the
and they also fear that this one will run away. So the gist of the matter
that's why his chairperson does not agree with bail.
Let us even take it for argument's sake. You are the state. this is your magistrate, he's your judge. You think he's less educated, who is listening to the matter, than you, the general, who is ordering for the rearrest. He knows, by the time they give you a court bail,
They take into account, yes.
to that such a big offense, what the court will have asked for and got from you, first of all, getting it from you, whatever they would have given as a condition, they must first get it from you. You get it? So when you say, this man is going to run away again, then why did you bring it to him? Why did you bring him to me? If you thought I could not handle that matter.
Please first submit.
Yeah, I'm happy that when I mention it, it triggers interest. And my colleagues jump in. That means my submission generates interest. And I'm, as a disciplined NRM, I listen.
Terrible guys,
I
man.
listen. So the thing is, I'm stating a fact, that the genesis of this arrest is based from the fact that a bail application, once granted, there's no appeal. Yes. If there was appeal, the state would say we're appealing. Now, and yet the state, through intelligence, knows the gravity. Okay. And again, there was a data taken of people who get bail, how many actually stay. 90% will run away out of the
country. But it's still their right.
You have the
right is a right.
Right to run away.
No, right to bail.
This is why there is that persistent. So some people are thinking, should we now amend the law to say the state can also appeal against a bail?
Your president did not even want bail, but please continue. Why do you bring back a law that the Supreme Court has nullified, really?
You see, this matter, the gist of the matter is civilians should not be tried in army courts. The government, the ruling party, the state system is alive to this fact. Civilians should not be tried in army courts. However, the same court went ahead to say, in exceptional situations. Now, the problem here is what amounts to exceptionality, and that is our view. But as a general rule, we are alive to the fact that don't take a civilian to. So, is the legislation circumventing or reversing a court decision?
That say do not.
No. Because Article 92 of the Constitution says Parliament shall not make laws to defeat a court ruling. So we are alive to that. But now, our point of departure is what amounts to exceptionality. So we think that the exceptions given in the court, in the law, meets that criteria of exceptionality. Now it is upon other Ugandans who can see and maybe take a litigation to say, we agree with you, you are saying that no civilian should be tried in court, and you are saying the exceptionality, but in our view, this is way outside exceptionality. So, in our view, the law was not meant to circumvent or reverse a court.
Your president and chairperson said that this court has failed to even handle pigs or cases of pigs. So there is a way it is demeaning or even shaming to the judiciary. What do you think about that comment? You as a counsel, who even went and studied the law very well.
We have had these comments. As I told you, the judiciary is really as an habitat of society, the society which is supposed to stand between two aggrieved parties, they're in trouble. As I said earlier, when the court rule well on the side of some particular person, they praise it. When it rules against, they curse it. So it goes across to everybody. But I know for a fact that President Museveni has a respect for the courts of law. Let me tell you.
So why does he want the general court martial then?
I sit with Museveni at all levels. I sit in SEC, I sit in NEC, I sit in the directors, what we call top management. Sometimes we meet when we are like 10 people, because the secretary directors were only 6, and then the secretary general and the deputy. So when we meet as top management, we are even few. But you can still see the sign of Kaguta.
No, but for us, what we see is not what you see. For us, we see someone who does not even want to. And I think that's not only the first time he's talking about courts
That's
in
why
that
I'm
manner.
telling you that even
And
in our-
generally, even professionals.
That's why I'm telling you that even in our small cocoon of top management of the party, this man still insists on the law. You say something, and ask you, how about the law? What is the law? Good enough, we have a director of legal. He's always standing up.
Same
Hey,
thing
Mwana
with the
Mateka.
law
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you find him saying,
Even
Mwana Mateka stand up. My brother, Barata, is always standing
But you're
up
talking
to-
about the ideal. Let's
No,
talk
this
about
is
the
a practice.
reality on
This is a
ground.
practice. I'm telling you, practice.
For- when the
Karuhanga-
president, okay, what comes in the mind when the president says you were going to see a clash of the army, then the legislature, and then the judiciary. So that means, and I heard Kanu Magezi also say that you are lucky that this law did not, we got this new, because you would have seen. So what is that fire that we are playing with? Is the rule of law a kind of a fire that we
I
should
don't know
not
what
tamper?
Magezi was saying, but all I know is that
Kanu Magezi is the spokesperson
the
of the
three
UPD.
arms of government, the three arms of government should move in tandem. The executive headed by Museveni, judiciary headed by Windolo, and the legislature headed by Anita Mong. These three arms are supposed to move in tandem together. Now, what President Museveni implied was that if there is disagreement, it leaves an impasse, which is not good. So maybe you people are overreading what he's saying.
Oh, you are the one under-reading it. Let me come to
It's
Mr.
an
Irumba.
impasse. So the three are supposed to work together. There's separation of powers, and yet they work together. It's like God, the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. They are separate and yet together.
No,
So
that
in
one
theory-
is true.
In theory, they are supposed to be independent, but in practice, they work together. So the allusion to impasse is that when there's disagreement between two or three, then it brings an impasse. So I
No,
don't know
but
what Magezi
I
was
like
reading
how, Major Awich, you like to explain his words, yet we hear the words ourselves. But you
hear
explain
that
Mr. Museveni.
You hear and you twist.
Let me come to Mr.
You hear
Irumba.
and you twist.
Irumba, we are in a country that has rebels as we speak, according to Kanu Magezi. And this law has been passed. They are rebels. And if you're thinking about rebels, one was saying that they're taking part in subversive activities. That means to subvert the state. What do you think about this new phenomenon?
In fact, they predict 2031, isn't it? 2031, 2036, there's going to be another rebel group. They can predict it now. Every election cycle, there must emerge a rebel
But are you
group.
being humorous?
Yeah,
Because you're making him
No,
laugh.
no.
Are you talking about serious?
I am a journalist who has been around, and they have been taking note that every time the election cycle is nearing, a rebel group must emerge. If it does not emerge around that time, it must emerge when opposition parties decide to vigorously now start mobilizing. You remember when NUP started countrywide tours? They emerged a rebel group. When they stopped, I don't know where those rebels were now merged into. Were they merged into LDU, UPDF, Uganda police? Where are they? Now they have emerged. Who is the commander? Where are they training from? They did not give these details. And how come? On Monday, when the German ambassador visited Saleh, and what happened. That is the point. That is the time. The same. What a timing! That when the German ambassador visits Saleh, and what they spoke comes out to the limelight. In the next 2 days, a rebel group emerges, and it is being sponsored by Germany. Did you realize
But
that?
he had already talked about the German ambassador prior to even that meeting. The meeting the German ambassador had with Chagulani.
Let me tell you.
There was a meeting they had at Kavule. The CDF commented on that. And he said, you're playing with fire. That was the word he used.
Exactly. That's the point. You said it clearly that immediately the German ambassador met the NUP people at the Kavule. The next time was a comment from General Mose. I read it. Yes, now they have started crafting. So the next point, the German ambassador wants to also play in the gallery, and he goes to General Saleh to try to talk to his nephew.
You talked to him and told him the reality.
But what does General Saleh say about his nephew? He says, this is not one of us. He does not belong to NRA. He does not belong to, he's not part of the NRA, the original NRA, and he's not an NRM person, I think. I think he's a Gen Z general. I even don't know what he's going to post next. He said it. He doesn't know what he is going to post next. Now, after that altercation, the next thing is a rebel emergency, and then it is German supporting it. Now, for me who has been around,
undermining intelligence.
No, I am not.
It's intelligence. Because
this intelligence, I think I can also be intelligent. We can match the intelligence. Because now I know it's in my head that every election cycle, or every time opposition tries to mobilize counterweight, a rebel group will emerge. However, once they tame down the tensions, this rebel group gets lost in the thin air. It has never been. Now, I want to know, the other time they arrested Jamil Mukuru, they said, this is the head of ADF, isn't it? This time I want to know, who is the head of this new rebel group?
No, they said they are supporters of NUP.
So the rebel group is NUP. The rebel group is NUP.
Supporters.
The rebel group.
And also they gave us a designation.
But also,
Uganda. They gave us a designation.
Okay,
Uganda.
Okay, next time. Then my next question is this one. When we were looking for rebel, what is Joseph Konyi's rebel group? LRA, Lord Resistance Army. We were not looking for a cook. We were looking for the commander. That's why our money is on the head of Joseph Kony. Even when we got hold of Dominic Ongwen, we have not stopped hunting for Joseph Kony. If there is a rebel group called the NUP, and we know the president sleeps in Magere, why are we going for these small boys? You get it? When we were looking for the ADF, we were not looking for the cooks. We were looking for Jamil Mukuru. We got him. And we celebrated. Why don't we go to Magere and pick this rebel commander? If you believe that there is a rebel group. So
why this narrative
so
of a rebel group?
So what is my
if
point?
It's not there,
so what is my
why?
point? What is my point? My point is that this intelligence you have told us, the intelligence, you said don't play with intelligence.
Because they say they got intelligence.
This intelligence, what they are playing is called Politricks. Politricks is what they are playing. And it's unfortunate.
So much that...
I end there.
The UPDF is playing politics.
So
I
much
finished my explanation.
that they claim BCJ also has another one. They go ahead and illegally taunt BCJ from Kenya, bound him into Uganda illegally, dump him in a military court.
So you see this law they have just passed. That's why they are still dealing with the BCJ. These new people, they are arresting for having berets similar, not belonging to UPDF, but similar to those of UPDF. They are going to go to Makinde. They will be your neighbors here very soon. However, Jamil Mukuru and Dominic Ongwen and Joseph Kony, if they are arrested tomorrow, they will continue going to Kololo, the International Crimes Division.
That's what
that's what I told you. Politricks.
UPDF playing
politics.
Because the spokesperson of the UPDF
Museveni and his military organization are playing politricks. Just to confirm on the BCJ thing, they claim that on BCJ. So now the other day BCJ was arraigned in court. What evidence has been arraigned before court that BCJ was associated with any rebellion? We want to see that as Ugandans. We beg to that. But finally, just want to say this. Yesterday, I was on my way from the east, and I was telling my family members in the car that the first direct detention I had under NRA, actually, was a bus, university students' bus from Nairobi University. I was deputy head of that delegation in 1986, commemorating which that was the first day of graduation at Makerere University when Museveni was learning to become the chancellor of Makerere University at the time. And so graduation ceremony was taking place in Makerere. So we detained a university student bus in Maga Maga. Now at the time, because we're being closely checked,
yes, sir.
You know, and they're being rather rude to the female student delegation. A Musonga member of that delegation got irate. Of course, we all got quite agitated. And for me, I hadn't paid too much attention to it because I initially remained in the bus. I think I was reading something. Then this guy said that, look, why are you going through us, though? You know that we're all Makerere University students. We're coming from this. We're going back to the university. And we're rushing because the graduation event is taking place at Makerere. Then the Musoga guy said, you do not mind. There is no FOBA in Musoga. I'm a Musoga. In fact, it was a very funny guy. I forget his name. I really need to know. We are Musoga. There's no FOBA at Makerere. But point is, as early as 1986, NRM bandits had created an imaginary organization called FOBA. You can imagine an organization allegedly called Force Obote Back. You've heard about that before.
Again.
It never existed. Really? But that thing was a name given, and particularly targeting Busoga and Eastern Uganda, UPC supporters, then associate them with FOBA. What do you think? The idea thing was basically to identify, torture, and begin disappearing them. The manner in which this guy has created instability in the East.
So if you're talking about politics, it has even led to removal of defense cooperation. Defense and
German
cooperation.
and UPDF.
So what you two are calling politics is actually creating an impact.
And that's why I told you earlier. So,
politics is a bad game.
Yeah, you realized I wasn't really. In fact, as I said tonight, I feel quite tired of this nonsense. That we are playing with the lives and livelihoods of our people and the lives and destiny of our country. Basically that to me is the thing. And how I'm able to reframe it, I do not know. That is basically how bad it is. I don't know really how Germany now looks, and Germans look at the Ugandans. I'm tired, Edgar. When I was pushed into exile by these NRM bandits in Britain, at the time, Comrade Awich, the common thing you meet when you meet a Mzungu, anybody else, where are you from? They said, I'm from Uganda. Either mean country. That's what people say.
Even up to today,
so either mean country.
that
no, but these days now people know that there's something called NRM bandits, but also people know about Joseph Coyne, the things about Northern Uganda. To be fair, it's a combination of those. But still either mean country. But now we are now going to be returned as a country of comedians. So if our National Army Commander can do what this young man is doing, and this is the diplomat, I'm a diplomat too, but this is the former diplomat for NRM. I think the guys have a very difficult job explaining
I'm also asking now, diplomacy, it feels like there is now a strained kind of relationship between Uganda and Germany and the European
But whatever the
Union.
case, if it was about Museveni and his family, it would be okay. But unfortunately, the impression of the
What do you think
Republic
about
of Uganda.
the idea, the narrative of Mwenda that even if it's not you to speak, you as the Germans, you as the Europeans, it is not your place to speak about our issues. We may have them, but let us solve these issues our own way.
It was simplistic. We can't pick diplomats. We can't pick and choose diplomats. But anyway.
No, the chairman, the major has not yet
maybe
spoken.
as he comes, if he can around.
Okay.
Because when you brought the Andrew Mwenda, it really rose my attention. You see, Edgar, there's a problem in our mindsets. Every educated madman on these African soils, when they are looking for something that helps them, they say, we are in the global village.
Yeah.
We're in the global village. Please, you cannot do this. We are one. Tomorrow when they are suppressing their people, they say, but who are you talking about?
Yeah.
This village. But Joseph,
this corner of our village, leave us alone.
Joseph, this Uganda, I'm here in Kampala. That you are in Gulu, torturing your Acholi people. That when Irumba comments about it, the first question you ask me, are you an Acholi?
Leave us alone.
Why are you commenting about us? Leave this issue of the Acholi. We are in Uganda. The world is a global village. If you believe it, that's why some of the Ugandan exiles are in Germany. Stella Nyanzi. Kakwenza. Now, why are they in Germany? If it is not a global village, how are they hosting you?
Thank you. Let me bring in Major.
But have you understood the argument?
Yes.
So we should stop this.
We bring the colonialism card and it suits us.
You cannot torture. Even in your family, you have given birth to your own children, Joseph. You cannot torture your children and your neighbor is looking on and he says, these are my children. The first charge will go to the neighbor who watched over.
Okay.
I have actually ever intervened on these matters of child abuse.
Major,
Yeah.
These people have zeroed down the rebel threat to just politics. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I also want to talk about the alternation between the ambassador of German and the UPDF. I'd like to state clearly that the visit to NU was not an ambassador of German affair. It was European Union. And European Union, you know, for them, they have gone so closely that they have an ambassador for European Union. For example, East Africa, if you are to put in the case of East Africa, you now see the ambassador in Germany, who is East African ambassador. And they advertise the post. You compete. You want to be ambassador for East Africa. However, they maintain also state sovereignty by having bilaterals. Bilateral means between Germany and Uganda, and that's why they have ambassador. But they have a loose association. I've met them several times at NRM Secretariat as ambassadors under European Union. And when they're in the European Union group, the flag we put during our meeting is European Union, not a German flag, not a Danish flag, nothing. So I wish the magazine know that the visit to NUP was under European Union. And the ambassador was the one seated near the German ambassador in the meeting in Gulu.
So they don't know.
That is the, and even going there, it is just because a member in the delegation spoke, who is German. Could have been a Danish ambassador. The lady who was looking surprised is the Danish ambassador, ambassador of Denmark. She was the one looking surprised, that one in that photo.
So are you saying that the German ambassador is not funding rebel groups in this country?
I will come there. So I just wanted the clarity on the fact that European Union as an ambassador, who is even senior to the German ambassador, because he's their leader.
Please answer that question, because
you know
what
I
you say. No, there is a way. It is
but
undermining. Please answer that question.
Me from
no, I don't want you to leave that
I
point.
Don't fear questions.
I want you to answer that point before you leave it.
Yes, I'm not going to leave it. So I just want clarity that the German ambassador is under the leadership of the European Union ambassador, and they act as a group. So having cleared that, your question about whether or not the German ambassador is recruiting rebels, I have no idea about, because that is now a matter of intelligence. I'm hearing also.
No, intelligence has told you, but it's like your first submission has
I've heard like
it.
you, so I can't say with authenticity or with authority that, oh, the German ambassador is recruiting. I don't have that I don't have that evidence. And I don't think it will be proven easily. Normally, allegations are proved in court. But now in a situation where you have diplomatic immunity, you may not even go to court. It will be in terms of rumors, because you can't sue the German ambassador unless you strip him of his immunity. And before you strip him of his immunity, the first course of action in diplomatic affairs is to ask him, do you want to go back or you want to face the law? In most cases, states withdraw their diplomats, so they don't want to go to court, and it is their right. So allegations are always proven in court, and in this case we are most unlikely to reach there. So I can't tell for certainty that there's a rebel group.
But then
you want me to come up and say, yes, Germany is recruiting rebels? Or
no, a decision has been
to come
made.
And say, no,
defense ties have been cut. So whereas you're saying something does not have evidence to it, decisions have been made from...
Sure that
let me even call it gossip, because if there is no evidence...
You know that I'm not even sure that alleged cutting has been done. Remember, it is Germany.
That is what
Germany is the one funding our troops in Somalia. So far, 2.3 billion euros. 2.3 billion euros. So when you hear an allegation of cutting defense cooperation, don't swallow it. Go a little further and say, is it true that it was cut or not? So just appearing in the media is not enough. So, but also I've seen the post that General MK has posted. He seems to say that because of the intervention of his uncle, he wants to mention Germany again. So that means we are okay now.
So that means we are just in an arena of just playing around, because if the UPDF can say such statements, and then you say you've cut the ties, and then tomorrow you apologize, it's politics, as
because
they
the MK apologized not to the German, but to his uncle, which indirectly apology to the German. So I don't see, but now.
So are there rebels?
Let me not forget.
Are there rebels in this
I
country?
told you I can't tell. You want two things from me. Either me or which to stand up and be clear.
You are downplaying the intelligence that has been brought.
You want me to stand up
but in
and
a
say,
diplomatic
yes,
manner.
there's a rebel. Or you want me to stand up and say, no, there's no rebel. This is not, I don't have the information. Now, let me talk about the sovereignty vis-a-vis the global village. Uganda is a member of the family of the world. And one way of doing that is that Uganda is a signatory and ratified many international conventions. Exactly. And once you ratify, you are bound by it. And those conventions prohibit this, prohibit that, prohibit this, promotes that. So the idea of a global village is not in theory. It is what we have put our signature on.
So it means you disagree with your commander.
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to say. You're disagreeing with
I am the director of external affairs. I'm telling you what is expected of a civilized state. We are 193 countries in the whole world. And 193 countries, many of them have ratified these conventions, including Uganda. Therefore, I want to make it known to Ugandans that we can't live in isolation. Because
in a statement, by the way, that
that contradicts the CDF.
In the statement that Magezi was actually also reiterating, he mentioned some convention. So he's also under the law in his own way.
He was mentioning the Vienna Convention on diplomacy.
Exactly.
He was mentioning the Vienna Convention.
He's also standing in his right.
Yes, he was mentioning the Vienna. You know, many conventions are cited according to the cities they were made. I think there is also a Kampala declaration. Yes, in Munyonyo. But why this one is called Vienna Convention? Because it was passed in Austria in Vienna. Like the ICC sometimes is referred to as the Rome Statute. Rome Statute because it was passed in Rome. So, but Magezi was quoting Vienna Convention, which talks about diplomacy, do's and do nots among diplomats. So if he's sure that the German ambassador is doing do's and do nots, then it is up to him to bring it.
Lastly, in these last 15 minutes, allow me also ask you about the Political Parties and Amendment and Organizations Act, the amendment. What do you think about it, you as an individual, but also the National Resistance Movement? Are you welcoming this act?
Yes. The amendment, in effect, seeks to say, if you are a member of the ruling party, if you're a member of a political party who has representation in parliament, you are entitled to money from government.
Yes.
And that this money is shared in a proportional representation. To that effect, there's no disagreement. Although Akena is saying that they are resolved that in the year of election should be
50-50, yes.
Or in a fraction, no.
Equal.
We hold a contrary view. We misread the provision. Now, what the other law, the gist of the law is, comrades, if you agree to dip your fingers in this basket, why don't you be in an association of basket hand dippers? Basket hand dippers.
Do I have to be forced to be part of that coalition?
You just want to dip your hand, but you don't want to be an association of hand dippers in the basket. You just want the money. So I think it is fair that as we get, because we can get in problems of sharing, so why don't you agree that? The only problem that I could have is the titling of the law. They call it, they used words like iPod, which has a genesis in NGO.
That's correct.
If it was drafted well, we could have avoided the word iPod. And I have a similar question in the homosexuality bill. That anti-homosexuality, if we had titled it as child protection law, we would have no issues. But the shouting title, the excitement, people are ignorant. I talked to the legislator, said, I have been in UN for 8 years. I know this matter. Please refrain from it. You're dipping the country in a serious problem. And no wonder we're dipped to the former president of the US. So, and that can be amended. The choice of words, the diction, iPod could have been avoided. Just like I'm saying, even in the anti-homosexuality law, we could have passively said child protection law. Finish.
Generally, they are saying that you are passively also trying to turn or stop the funding of the political parties. Indirectly, it's true saying that you come and dialogue, maybe because they won't come.
The choice is theirs. But for us, we are saying, hand dippers in the basket, please sit down and talk as those who dip their hands in that basket. Why do you want to dip your hand in the basket and you don't want to sit together?
Yeah, you know what?
That's the double standard.
That's new law.
You know these opposition parties, they behave like these men. I don't know how I should cross. But they are these men.
We have understood.
It is giving me a problem.
Please do.
They are these men who want to go with the woman in the darkness at night and enter the Lord. But then they don't want to be seen. When the woman says, this is my, no, where is it? But then they want to enjoy the fruits of this woman they have gone with.
At night when they see
they want even the rest to be off. There is money here in this basket. You are dipping your hand to remove the money. But that money from that basket has its own conditions.
And rules.
But for NUP and UPC, they say, no, let us dip in, remove the money equally, but don't tie us to your meetings. But the conditions of this money dipping your hand is that we must dialogue.
But prior to
after dialoguing, now.
But is it a dialogue, Irumba?
Is it that is another. Now, let me finish.
It's a dialogue.
Let me finish.
Even if someone is dictating
that's a different matter. That's a different matter. How come? When it comes to sharing money, they want to agree. But when it comes to whether it is a dialogue or somebody is dictating, there they don't even want you to discuss about it. Then you leave the money. We must agree whether we are dictating or not dictating. We first fight over that. How should we discuss? Don't dictate to us, you NRM. Let us discuss. We first agree on that one. If we disagree on that one, then we have disagreed on the money.
And that's what
because the money is the fruit of the discussion. For you, you don't want to discuss with us, but you want the results of the discussion. Leave it. Leave it. That's point number one. Point number two. Why should I, a taxpayer, pay Mr. My elder brother, my elder Awich Pollar, pay him through his party for running the state? Then I pay UPC for competing with him to take power. What am I benefiting?
You're growing democracy.
No. We have been here since.
Country.
When were the multi-parties released?
2005, 6.
What have we benefited as a country? Let's now go. Let us do a balance sheet. Let us do that. Since before, when we were in the movement system, this is what used to happen. And it was detrimental to our country. Since we, the UPC, NRDP, UFDC, started accessing public money, this is what we have achieved in the democracy. Let us first do a what? An audit. Is it there? In fact, if you asked me,
yes, sir,
that parliament, I told you last time, I see a very, there is an ongoing heavy construction in that parliament, expansion. If it were me, I would use that as a bigger project. We don't need the parliament in Uganda. We don't need the political parties. We need a party that is in power, take all the resources, run the country.
One state system.
You UPC, go to Germany, go to France. You can even buy land in Uganda, till the land, grow cassavas, come and sell to me in an Akawa market. You get money, you run your party. When the day you master power out of NRM, take the resources of the country. But they can't then win your war to fight over NRM. Okay. Meanwhile, when I see you are not also fighting for me, that's why Jim Akena, his biggest trouble with what is happening in that amendment is not how they are going to sit, it is how they are going to share. Okay. That's his. So I don't want my money. I want my money to be used to buy drugs in Mulago. Not to sponsor him to fight his enemy NRM. No.
Yagonja was saying that Mulago is a monument.
Yeah.
I want you to give me your parting shot, sir, so, as we conclude.
My parting shot is they should go back and amend that law. No political party in opposition should access public money. Do you know, if you push these guys, they would go and use membership money, buy land, grow food, sell it to the people. These members, every member should buy and pay membership fee to the political party. That money should be used to run the party.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
Thank you.
why should I pay you for fighting your enemy?
Joseph
I
Ochieno.
don't want to be part of your fighting.
Yeah, you're teaching democracy. Joseph Ochieno, you're parting shots.
I know you will disagree on this one. It's
No,
okay.
he actually had the same
We have
idea.
now parting shot.
No, him. I know.
But no, I didn't even make a submission, so I'll complain like Comrade Awich, but then I'll respect UPC discipline. I'll make sure that I do. I'm used to this. For the last 39 years, we've been put on the sidelines, but we're not going anywhere. We're actually the future as Uganda People's Congress. Look, you guys, the iPod element in the legislation is very interesting because it didn't ask me to make a very interesting, as Comrade Awich says. It makes the whole thing look very comic. But number two, it's again another very unnecessary legislation. It's basically a coercion. It's almost like bonding people like NRM bonded Ugandans together to make them everybody co-opted into their movement thing, meaning their Bush thing. The original idea about the money thing was that political parties that have representation in parliament should be entitled to money on a proportional basis. Quite clearly how that changes and then it requires a new legislation. I don't know, except that the thing is targeting, apparently, NUP guys who decided not to participate in that. Okay. We know the iPod arrangement at the moment is basically Museveni plus those people with whom he agrees. Not political parties, but individuals, including people like Jim McCain and Robert Mao, with whom they agree on the ideas to continue controlling Uganda and dishing out money amongst themselves. And when it's comfortable for Mr. Museveni, he's able to give NRM legislators 100 million shillings each, lest we forget. And then those in opposition, you know, quietly give them more than what we know. My position, obviously, is quite this, Comrade Irumba, that actually a future UPC government would actually ban
funding of
political parties. Because I don't believe, as you rightly say, that the taxpayers should find a political elite. I believe that political parties, worth of names, should be able to mobilize and organize through their membership and through their leadership.
Mobilize locally and internationally.
To mobilize the resources to fund and finance themselves, that it should not come from the state. We know, and Comrade Awich and I know, the source of the reason why this is things happening. We know it's benefiting NRA, and NRA I think is quite scared that with the numbers of NUP, it makes NUP slightly much more relevant. And because the NUP guys are refusing, at least in the open, because we understand some of them also have deals and businesses over during midnight, jumping over the fence like Mabati into Kasaija's place, that they will do those deals. But because they're not able to do so in the open, maybe target them. So really this legislation targets NUP. But the idea that, well, you simply say that you either sit with us by force or you don't, I think is as archaic as anything else that came before the
I think they're looking for dialogue rather than
antagonism. You can't force dialogue.
Rather than violence.
No, you can't force dialogue. But what has been achieved in
But fine, if you don't want to dialogue, then don't take the money.
And that's what I'm saying.
Leave everything.
But what has been achieved?
Leave everything.
My parting shot is that all this we are discussing.
You want children, but you don't want to get pregnant.
What we are discussing goes into crystallization of freedom, rights, and democracy. I can assure you that our Ugandans seem to say NRM is not good in those. But I'm telling you, don't take it like the rest. You know wrestling, when you watch it, they tell you don't try it at home.
At home.
Now, we have the democracy, where the Kenyan woman comes here. She's given a practicing certificate. I know where you're going. And they want to take it to Tanzania, and Agatha, saying that we are not democratic. Please don't try it. We are Uganda, we are democratic. We are the Kenyan lady just reaches the airport and she's not even told to sit down. She's told, stand here, wait for the next flight. The Agatha just told, take it near Mutukula and said, you see that signpost? That is
and
Uganda.
She's here practicing.
That is Uganda. So, those who think that we are the worst of, I think you have known that Uganda is a nice country NRM.
Because you're down the bottom there, because you're not the worst, you're not worse than Tanzania. In this particular case, does not mean you guys are terrible.
So
Ugandans deserve better.
The Kenyan lawyer comes here,
it's a terrible consolation for Comrade Awich.
A practicing certificate, she practices and she goes. Other jurisdiction, you reach the airport, they don't even give you a chair. They say,
Genda.
Thank you so much for
please,
watching.
Ugandans, we are in a democratic society.
This is the Hotline Show, and you are watching Digitalk TV. We've come to the conclusion or the end of this particular program. Thank you so much for tuning in. I was privileged to have Mr. Irumba, Andrew, who is a journalist, senior journalist. I also have a senior politician from the Uganda People's Congress, that is Mr. Joseph Ochieno, and of course, Mr. Pollar Awich, retired Major Counsel Pollar Awich, who is the Director, External Affairs at the National Resistance Movement. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. I'll see you again tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. We'll be here breaking dawn with Uganda. Good evening.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.